my lovely friends, it's Margaret, and it is time to talk about Vaultathon. So it is the Wednesday before Vaultathon begins, and I promised you guys I would give you my TBR and some other recommendations if you're looking for some last-minute additions to your TBR. I have quite a few. Some of them are short books, some of them are not. I apologize for the fact that some of them are not. So first off, if you somehow missed the announcement for Vaultathon, Round 6 is happening March 15th through the 21st. Our theme for this month is Ratatouille, and we are reading With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo for our group book. I will not be doing this alone. I do have some help that I have recruited. As usual, we have Christine from the other Christine That Reads, and then we also have rejoining us Brianna from Coffee Books and Bullet Journals because this is her favorite Disney movie and I promised her, and Michelle from Thor Wants Another Letter. There will be a group watch along on Saturday the 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will also be having the live show on the 21st. Time to be decided. Check out the Twitter for more information on that one. Speaking of Twitter, there are all kinds of good links in the description box for the Goodreads group and the Twitter and all of that stuff, and one of those links is for Twitter Sprints. If you are interested in helping host Twitter Sprints, please just go into the description box and check out that link. Look at the form. It's real fast. I think I ask your handle and whether or not you'd be available and possibly your timeline. Time zone. As usual, I am going to do something wild that will totally shock everyone and try and read one book for every book-related prompt in this readathon because that is who I am as a person. Just a friendly reminder, you don't have to do that. If you read With the Fire on High, this fulfills all of the book-related prompts. So you don't have to worry about it if all you need to do is read this one book. However, as I said, I am a little bit of an overachiever, and I like, personally, to try. Don't always succeed, but I do try. For the first prompt anyone can cook, that is to read a book with an unconventional protagonist. So basically any kind of protagonist that you don't usually see in a novel. I will be using With the Fire on High to fulfill that one because you don't usually see a teen mom as the protagonist, especially of a YA novel. You would think you would see more of that, but you don't usually. So there are a couple of ways you can approach this. You can do unconventional as in you don't usually see that protagonist, or unconventional as in they themselves in the story are unconventional in some sort of way. I'm going for the latter in this case. The first one I want to recommend is The Sound of Stars by Alechia Dow. There are aliens involved. One of them is one of the main characters. Therefore, unconventional by my definitions. This is about aliens have taken over Earth and they're trying to get humans to change it so that it is habitable for them and they're able to come live. And there's this whole great giant galactic corporation type thing that's going on in the background. And one of these main characters has a secret library that she could get killed if people find out she has it. The other book that I want to recommend is Black Sun by Rebecca Rohnhorst. This has, once again, several unconventional characters as points of view, especially the two we meet at the beginning, Serapio and, oh my god, I just left my brain, Shiala. Shiala is not quite human. Serapio, it's Serapio. That's as much as I can tell you. So this is based on kind of like the Aztec or Mayan pre-Spanish era, if the Spanish never came to the Americas, what kind of would have happened, but it also has a little bit of fantasy, brings in some of the mythology and the folklore that it surrounds there. But this is going to stress you the frack out. It stressed me out for most of it. I was stressed. I was not okay reading this book, but I enjoyed it so much, and I hated the ending, and I just need the next book. So for the second prompt, Remy, which is to read a book with a character that loves to cook, preferably a main character, but like if they're a pretty important side character, that works as well. I am going to be reading A Taste of Sage by Yafa S. Santos. There is some sort of like competition element or something like that. She is basically, they're not going to like each other at the beginning and then they're going to fall in love. They're both cooks. That's all I needed to know about this particular story. That's all I think anyone needs to know about this particular story. It is a contemporary romance. I'm hoping I'll be able to get through it pretty quickly because you usually can. So I tried to give you guys some variety in the books that I was recommending, but this one was a little harder to find books about characters that liked to cook that I personally owned and met the criteria for the books that I wanted to be recommending in this video. So the first one I'm going to recommend is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hwang. I absolutely adore this. If I remember correctly, this dude, the male protagonist, does enjoy cooking, and so you should read it. So this is about Stella. She is autistic. She's been having issues with relationships, and she knows, or she feels, her autism is the main thing getting in her way of having a healthy relationship, the kind of relationship that people tell her she should have. And so she hires Michael, who is an escort, to kind of walk her through having a relationship so she can practice and get comfortable with that kind of thing. You guys know what happens from there, right? Like, I don't have to explain the rest of the book to you guys. You guys know what's gonna happen, right? The other one that I wanted to recommend was The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory. I can't remember whether it was him or her, but I know there are several cooking scenes, and there is cooking that happens, and one of them really does enjoy it. I think it might be her. I think she might stress cook things. At least once. So anyways, this is the second book in the Wedding Date series, but you do not necessarily have to read them in order. Necessarily. I mean, it's a romance series. You know the two main characters are going to end up together, so like it's not really spoiling anything if you already know the couple. Like if you see the couple from the first book and this book, not really spoiling anything. It's major, crucial. They're just together. So I don't think you need to start at the beginning, but if you do want to start at the beginning, I highly recommend the series. But this is a good book, and I enjoy it. All right, so I'm not centered anymore. There we go. Prompt number 3 is Paris, and that is to read a book that is set in the big city. I will be reading Wicked Fox by Cat Cho. I have been wanting to read this since she first started talking about it, and oh, why does it have stuff on the front like that? What happened to this cover? So this takes place in modern day Seoul, and that's a big city in Korea. And so or South Korea specifically, because there's 2 of them at the moment. Thanks, colonialism. This is about Gumi Young. She is a gumiho, which means that she is a fox type entity, immortal, all kinds of stuff. Her job is to like eat the souls of men, and so she makes do with that by eating the souls of evil men. And then she saves this dude, and suddenly her immortality is in question. She might lose her soul. Something like that. I don't know. I don't care. I need an audiobook, and I've had this on my shelves, and it is time to read it, because I've been saying I'm going to read it, but I haven't. So now we're going to read it. The first one I'm going to recommend is can you see? There we go. I'll Be the One by Lila Lee. This is about Sky, and she enters in this K-pop competition. She enters singing and dancing. She's kind of making waves because she is plus size, and she is very adamant about the fact that she loves herself, that she doesn't feel like she needs to lose weight to be able to be successful as a K-pop star. She can sing, she can dance. That's all that matters in her book. However, obviously she has to convince other people of that, and she deals with like just trigger warnings for fat phobia, just so you are, if that's something, just know it's in there. And there are people you will want to hit in the face, because they're just off. This is super fluffy and cute and wonderful, and I loved it. It just made my day. The other book I'm going to recommend is Lazaretto by Diane McKinney-West. So this takes place in New York City, another really big city. Oh, the other one takes place in Los Angeles, which is why I was recommending it. But this takes place in New York City, which is another big city, and it is about the lives of Black people following the assassination of Lincoln in the North, specifically looking in the North. One of the characters it follows ends up working at this place called the Lazaretto. That's a hospital where people who were contagious were sent to be treated to keep pandemics from spreading throughout the city. That's not relevant to anything at all that's going on right now. This follows many different characters, and it follows them for a couple, like at least a decade or two, because it's going through these people's lives and really just showing what their lives were like and how their status was affected by what they did, by how they looked. This is on the list of books that almost made me cry, because at the moment there is the only a book I've listed have almost made me cry. There are no books that have made me cry. Just haven't yet happened. I love this. I love the weaving together of the different narratives that we have, and I love where it goes to at the end of the book. Just get ready, get your tissues, you will have feelings. Prompt number 4 is Toughest Cook in the Kitchen, and that is to read a book by a woman of color. What I'm going to be reading is I'm Still Here. Maybe if I put him over here. Oh, look, that's so much better. What I will be reading is I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness by Austin Channing. This is one of the books that I picked up kind of in my quest to figure out my religion and how I feel about it, and how I feel my life should be affected by it moving forward. There are still a lot of things that I am unpacking and things that I am questioning that I want to learn. I want to know other opinions and traditions outside of myself, outside of the particular Christian tradition that I was raised in, specifically the denomination that I was raised in. I just have questions. I want to see how other Christians, especially Christians who are people of color, kind of interact with the church, and how their experiences and how they believe what they believe when so many wrongs against people of color have been backed by the white church. So the first one I want to recommend is Song of Blood and Stone by L. Penelope. This is a, like, I would say almost new adult, probably new adult fantasy. It takes place in this world where there are these two countries. They are separated by this magical veil because the one country keeps trying to invade the other, and so the magical veil is the only thing keeping them from being conquered. The two main characters kind of have to work together to deal with the fact that the veil is, this thing is failing, and they think they have a solution for it, and it just goes from there. The other one I would like to recommend is Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga. This is another one that's on my list of books that almost made me cry. Yeah. Anyways, this is about Judah, and there are airplanes in her hijab. This is about Judah, and she is a Syrian immigrant. Her mom has moved them from Syria because Syria is very unsafe for them at this time, and so her mom wants to keep her safe. So she comes to this country where she barely speaks the language, and she's having to integrate into this new high school, get to know all of these new friends when she's left everyone that she knows behind, and she decides that she is going to audition for the school play. I love this book. It is a book written in verse. It is so far the only book written in verse that has gotten 5 stars from me because I just, loved it. It's really good. It's heart-wrenching, but really good. The 5th prompt is a Garbage Boy, and that is to read a book about someone who needs to grow. I am going to be reading The Song of the Crimson Flower by Julie Seidel. From what I understand, the main character is really mean to a guy that likes her and proposes to her. And she feels bad about it because she knows that she was kind of out of line. She could have, he wasn't being, weird. I'm assuming he wasn't being weird or creepy or anything in the way that he proposed or showed his affection, and she feels bad about how she turned him down, and so she goes looking for him and only finds his flute. And it turns out he has been cursed, so that he has been enchanted into his flute, and now she has to help him get uncursed. And so I feel like there's going to be some sort of growth journey going on along there with her, realizing maybe I should treat people better than I did. I'm assuming there's going to be some growth. This is another one that I know I can get the audiobook for, so that's kind of how I'm playing it. I've tried my best to divvy these up by having audiobooks and stuff. I actually probably can get audiobooks for at least 3 of these books at this point. So the first one that I am going to recommend is I Can Make This Promise by Christine Day. This is about Edie. She was Native American. Her mother was adopted, and so she doesn't really have connections to their tribe. She doesn't really have a lot of information about that, and so Edie kind of grows up thinking there's no connection. There's nothing that she can do to kind of be more connected with that side of her heritage. She doesn't really question it too hard until we get to this book, and then she finds some pictures in the attic of a woman who looks very much like her, and she starts to question how much her mom knows. This is definitely about a character, not necessarily that needs to grow, but she does a lot of growing in this book, and I liked the way it was handled. I liked the topics that were tackled. It is about her having to deal with normal middle school things, and I love the fact that that was balanced in the plot, that we are having this story that is very autobiographical for the author in regards to discovering her family, but she's also sitting there going, but that's not the only thing that's going on for this kid. And then the final book that I'm going to recommend is For a Muse of Fire by Heidi Heilig. This is another one where the growth is not necessarily in the synopsis, but it is about a character who does a lot of growing and discovers a lot about herself that she did not know. This is about Jeddah. A lot of this is about the East India Trading Company and how it just absolutely wrecked so much of East and Southeast Asia. Just did terrible things, because this is a story about a girl in a fictional country that has been colonized. But if you know the history of the East or India Trading Company, you're going to know some of the parallels that are here. I knew less about the history when I read this than I do now, and I remember I knew a lot of the parallels. This takes a real tough, hard look at colonialism, and also takes a look at bipolar disorder, because the main character does have that. That's not a spoiler. It's something that the author has been very open about because she struggles with it herself, and she wanted to see that in a fantasy. There just is a lot of growth in this book, and there's a lot of growth that needs to happen after this book ends. I loved it. I thought it was so good and rich and wonderful, and it feels like historical fiction even though it's not historical fiction. It feels like you're reading about real events that actually happened, even though none of these events they did, but they didn't. Does that make sense? So that's my TBR and my recommendations for round 6 of Vaultathon. Please let me know in the comments if you are going to be participating. If you know your TBR already, leave it for me. If you have questions about books that you can read to fit the prompts, leave those for me. You'll notice that all of these books do fit prompt number 4. You'll notice that. So, any of these books can go for prompt number 4, and then they can double for other prompts as well, for the most part, except for the ones that I specifically recommended for prompt number 4. I don't know about videos. If you are not feeling chatty, just go ahead and leave me a chef emoji down in the description box. There should be one. There's a little man with a chef's hat down there somewhere, or a woman. You can leave a woman as well, like however you want to do. Just leave a little chef in the comments so I know you watched the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, there will be other videos over here talking about Vaultathon and other things that I do on my channel. If you're interested in any of those, just go ahead and check them out. That is it for now, my friends. I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!